Alrighty, and hello YouTube, welcome back to It's Too Hot in Here, and so I'm going to be yapping through this fairly quickly, where today we're excitedly back for Path of Exile 1. We're so back. I'm very excited. We have it starting literally tomorrow, and usually I would do this a little bit sooner, but it has just been, it's been too hot to record, truthfully. So, here we are. I will have, per usual, I will have all of the PoBs down below if you want to just take a look at any of those. But realistically, I just wanted to go through all of my weird ideas, little things that I'm considering for this league start. And with that, we'll just kind of kick right off. This is the one that I'm probably going to be starting with this league. It looks fun. It looks just like I haven't done a good Cyclone attack build in a while. And so this is just kind of what I'm thinking. We're going to go Scion Reliquarian. This tree is a little bit too high level, but it's fine. I usually keep my trees right around like level 96 or so, 95, 96. But regardless, this is our Reliquarian here. The reason why I wanted to go Reliquarian too is, let me pull it back up, is this league in particular, we got some really cool stuff. So we have Kaum's Roots here, which was kind of like my initial reasoning for even doing that. So we have the max life, can't be knocked back, action speed can't be modified to below base value, which is fantastic. Cannot evade, which is reasonably fine, and then cannot be stunned. So realistically, all these will be great things for a Cyclone setup in particular. Dawnbreaker here would also be extremely good if you went with the route where you get, I'm trying to remember the name of that jewel, sorry. The one where you get your stun and block recovery comes back really, really fast. It's a jewel, you can get it up to like 900% plus, and then it basically wouldn't matter. And then I would say probably just take something like a Dawnbreaker, or something along those lines, and that would also go really, really well, and that would maybe just be like a later version of the build. But Kaum's Roots off rip is very nice, would let us just sit there and spin on people, and should be very, very solid. That's the spell one. This is the jewel one, so even though this is the third slot that we would get. The one that I'm thinking here is probably Polaric Devastation, because again, we're going full fire with this, so we actually are going to be covering enemies in ash for 5 seconds when we ignite them, and we get the nice little bonus of increased duration of ailments. We will be igniting because we're going to be critting, all that kind of good stuff. So inevitably they will get ignited, and then they'll be covered in ash, and they'll take even more fire damage. So that would be very solid. But if you wanted to go pure value as far as like damage, or as far as defense goes, then I would probably say we take Melding of the Flesh here. Sorry, my face cam's covering that a little bit, but I'd probably take Melding of the Flesh here if that were the case, or maybe Kaum's Binding if you want to just have enemies converting part of their fizz damage so you're not taking as much fizz. That would be sort of up to you in that regard, though. But I think Polaric Devastation is a good way to go right there. And then for the weapon here, we would be using Namahu's Flame, because we get level 20 Molten Burst on melee hit. We're using Cyclone, so it's going to be popping off as often as it comes off cooldown. And damage penetrates 20% fire res, which is just a very nice added bonus on top of all this. There are actually some really good options that we have in total here, I think. There are some really fun options, both in here and in the spellcast variant of Reliquarian this league as well. But that is what I am thinking. So as of right now in PoB, it's not updated. So this is the previous Reliquarian, hence why I have taken no points in here, and why in the configuration you'll see I have trigger levels. Oh, my face is covering it a little bit. I'm gonna move myself over here. You'll see we have the trigger level 20 Molten Burst on hit and damage penetrates is built into the custom modifiers. It doesn't do anything in the main skills though. Like you can see we don't have level 20 Molten Burst here. The thing that kind of sucks is because it's not on the weapon, we aren't going to be able to support Molten Burst with literally anything at all. So we just kind of have to hope that the level 20 version of it can do some pretty solid damage by itself, and hopefully it will. But otherwise though, I decided to go with Staves. Staves are a good base for Cyclone, especially because it just, you can get some good block built into it, you can get some good damage and crit built into it from all the wheels that we have around here. It's pretty close to the Scion start area as well. Like we can just start out here, we get our life wheel right off rip 2, and then we can come over and get ourselves some Steelwood stance, for more defenses. We're going Avatar of Fire as well, just because I think that'll be a very good additional benefit to have for us, just everything being fire, more fire per fire. We're getting some Rage. We have, of course, the counterweight, Smashing Strikes, Whirling Barrier here for the initial staff nodes. We got some melee crit here. We get all these other like defensive nodes, like Nomadic Teachings, And then we can come down here for some Fortify and some Life and Lava Lash here, which will also be quite nice. I would say Magmatic Strikes here is probably the one that matters kind of the least, but also is still fine to have overall. And then we can take the Fire Mastery. The kind of the most important thing here is getting the Fire Mastery for converting more of our damage. I'd probably say don't take Avatar of Fire for at least a decent while until you're able to get to this Fire Mastery, or come over here and take the Fire Mastery here, and maybe just cycle this out instead of the Fire Exposure. Just move the Fire Mastery from here down to here. So I'd say it's up to you on when you want to actually start going into that full fire conversion side. We'll get it pretty early, but also I want to say it'll be third lab is when we're actually going to get our hands on Namahu. So it's going to be a bit before you're able to actually really make full use and be getting that Molten Burst and be getting the Fire Penned. So kind of keep in mind all of that. I would probably recommend running Avatar Fire a bit later into the league, maybe right around that third lab, and then just try to find a weapon that has mostly just big added fizz and fire on top of it, and just kind of go that way with it. That would be my recommendation as far as League Start goes. That's my plan as far as League Start goes. And then we'll be making my way up here for Sovereignty, Purity of Flesh, as things kind of as we start to unlock more auras, as we start to kind of get into those bit of later games. That's when we'll go up here for Sovereignty and Purity of Flesh, and we'll grab one with the River and Blunt Trauma and everything. But these nodes as well, there's a part of me here, there's going to be a break point with this build, right? Where this is how it is set up right now. This is what I have put in here for the time being, but I think there will come a point a bit later into the early game of the league when you manage to get yourself a Cluster Jewel or something, where I want to say you'd want to take out pretty much all of these points here. I think you could remove all of these pretty safely, or maybe come up here and remove the entirety of one with the River and Blunt Trauma. Just get rid of all of these nodes entirely, and maybe a few others. Maybe you do just get rid of Magmatic Strikes and just move this Mastery down here. And then instead you would take a Cluster Jewel, and you could get some really good stuff going in a Cluster Jewel. I don't have it put in here, but let's just take a very quick look. That's attack. There is one for staff, isn't there? Oh no, there it is. Mace and staff, which then we would use probably just like some very classic stuff, probably just Feed the Fury, Fuel the Fight, plus Martial Prowess, if I really had to say anything. So if you can get that combo on literally anything, get it on just pure attack damage, get it on mace and staff damage, then I think that'll be pretty set in stone. But I think those are going to be the classic three that you're going to be going for on a Cluster Jewel setup. And then you would just remove your points kind of over here. So of course, as well, as you can see in the items here, now as we know with Calms, we can't evade enemy attacks. So, and actually I can probably add that in here. It probably works. Evade enemy attacks. There we go. Can't evade, but at the same time we can still kind of try to get, so we're just going to be trying to get as much fizz damage, fire damage, attack speed, crit, LE damage with attack skills, all that kind of good stuff. And then in here, we'll still have all of the normal gear. If you're able to get some spell suppression, I think that will still be very nice. Like if we went with an armor evasion base and you got it thick enough, that would still be very nice here, just because we're still hitting our fizz damage reduction at 90%. Also, we're going to be trying to get an eventuality rod out of Heist. But we still get 90% fizz damage reduction between endurance charges and between just the amount of like raw armor and using determination, all that kind of good stuff. We'll have a lot of fizz damage reduction as is, and I think it would still be worth to kind of lean into both armor and evasion if you can. If you need to feel thicker though, then you absolutely could just go that route. But the reason why is because I think that Perseverance is a very good belt. And as much as you don't need to roll into the increased attack damage per armor and evasion rating part of it, you can just ignore that and just worry about the having onslaught while we're fortified, and we'll pretty much always be fortified thanks to Fortify Mastery down here. Realistically, I would say you could 100% just ignore that part of it if you want to, but I wanted to lean into it a little bit. And the other thing is, if you do armor evasion, you can also get some spell suppression out of that gear. But again, that's up to you. Early game, I would say just focus on armor because, again, we can't evade anything. So until you're able to really get some of those bigger pieces of gear, I would say just stick to pure armor bases and just try to get as much armor. Make sure that you're sitting at a nice 90% phys damage reduction. And then if you're able to get a better armor evasions or armor evasion split later on that still keeps you at your phys damage cap and then gives you a little bit of evasion just to lean into both perseverance and maybe try to get some spell suppress chance as well, then I think that would be a very good way to go about it. So that's kind of all I have in here. Very generic stuff for the most part. Again, flat fire, get yourself accuracy where you need it, attack damage with elemental skills, life, resistances, whatever stats you happen to need. I'm actually a little bit low written on the dexterity here, but just get whatever you happen to need, get whatever stats you need, and just fill in from there. It should be, realistically, this should be a very straightforward build. So Cyclone, elemental damage, we're going more fire penetration, infused channeling because of course, and increase critical damage because we have a good amount of crit here, and also we are out of my boots. What did I put on the boots? Sorry, I think I'm. Oh, I didn't put anything on the boots. Oh, no wonder. Oh, see, this is why sometimes you need to make sure that you are not as. Oh, also, I just realized I did that wrong. Whoops, my bad. It's under searing, and then it's brittle ground. There we go. Brittle ground, get some extra fizz, get fizz as extra fire. We save that, so that's more damage. My bad, sorry. And then we could make the assumption, again, we're cyclones, we're spinning on them, that they are on brittle ground, and that'll put us basically at cap right there, which is great. So that's very much so. We're going increased critical damage, and then endurance charge on melee stun. Endurance charges are great. We should be stunning fairly often realistically too, because fizz stick, all that kind of good stuff. So we'll be getting endurance charges out of that. And again, if we're using an eventuality rod, then that's just plus 1 to max charges. So we might as well be trying to do it. And I want to say that'll be a good way to do it. And then power charges here I have assumed, but realistically you won't be able to get those until later. The only way I can actively think of, I mean, there are plenty of other ways to get power charges, but the one that I have just off the top of my head that I usually do as far as league starts go is getting an assassin mark with 20 quality on it, and that gives you a 5% chance to generate a power charge on hit against any target that's marked by this. So as soon as you get into a rare, realistically, you put the mark gets put onto them from mark on hit, you're spinning on top of them, and we're getting so many attacks on them that odds are really good. You're going to be getting your power charges up that way as well. So that should be everything as far as this goes. But this seems like it's going to be a really solid build. Like I said, at some point, you'd pivot away from some of these nodes and just try to get yourself a cluster jewel and try to get yourself some very generic stuff, and it should do quite well, I think, for a league starter overall. And I'm excited to give it a go. I really liked Reliquarian last time, so I'm hoping this one is equally as fun. With that, we'll roll into another one on this same side of the tree here, Dominating Blow Guardian. Now, the reason why I say Guardian here, you could of course run this as a Necromancer if you really want to. Whoops, this one's Necromancer, and you could go with the poison side of things 100%. Feel free to do so if you would like. But the big deal here, and the reason why I wanted to do this, is because of this right here. Non-Spectre minions no longer pause while attacking. Most didn't already pause, but Dominating Blow did. And I didn't even think about this when they initially said it, but as soon as I read this, I went, oh yeah, they did. Dominating Blow had a really kind of like annoying thing where you would see them like pause between hits. So I wanted to at least throw together a build for Dominating Blow, because it's still one of my favorite skills regardless. I usually do it as a champion actually, and roll with Impale on top of being a champion. That's actually one of my more favorite builds to do with this particular setup. But I decided if this is going to be a league starter, as much as I've done that with the league start before, I think Guardian would be a little bit safer of a bet for it. So of course here, I once again don't have any cluster jewels put in here. You would eventually want to respec out of some of this stuff, and you could also make a grand assumption and just cut off some of these nodes like here and take these nodes away, like don't need Lord of the Dead. And you could also get rid of like Grave Intentions over here, over all this stuff. You could easily get rid of all those and take a minion cluster whenever you have it, or even come over here to this node and take 2 and remove all of the redemption points here too. This is also not all that necessary, and you could get rid of the minion offense here. And you could easily do nodes that like that and then make yourself a minion cluster jewel up there. That is what I would do later on in the game. And I don't usually try to put in unique items, but this time around I decided to just throw some uniques in for this particular build as things to kind of eventually look for. Which Guardian here, I love to do the elemental version of builds if I'm going to be doing a Guardian of anything. When I did a Bama Guardian, same thing, went fully elemental, used Flesh Crafter, all that kind of good stuff. So that is kind of what I'm going to put in here as a recommendation as well, is to go with, try to find yourself a Flesh Crafter if you can, build around that. You could also get the Foulborn Flesh Crafter, which lets minions also leech 2% of their damage dealt as energy shield, which is awesome. So if you're able to get that, even more power to you. But that is just kind of like my favorite version of doing this. And then I decided as well, I hadn't tried the Hollowing Flame version too, which also sounds like it would be very good with Dominating Blow. Of course, we're running around and we're melee hitting everything, so why would we not take Martial of Divinity here? That seems pretty good. Maybe if you got a Forbidden Flesh and Flame for that later in the league, you could easily do that too. Otherwise, we got Bastion of Hope, and you have Radiant Crusade and Unwavering Crusade here, so that we're doing as much damage as we can in the elemental variety, which is great. It also kind of the nice thing about that is it really lets you build into your own auras more, right? You can use, you know, I have specters listed in here, so you'll notice that I'm not using something like a Determination and some other stuff, which of course you'd probably be running those later. But the ones that I have in here as specters is Hulking Miscreation, which gives you, I believe is it attack speed or is it damages? Might be Fizz as extra, or it's like attack speed or attack damage to constructs. And I believe that Dominating Blows do count as constructs. So Hulking Miscreation is a very good buff to have. Guardian Turtle here just to cast Determination, and then Perfect Forest Warrior here, good old dad, because he has Onslaught attached to him, which is very nice to just give to all of your minions. But there's a plethora of other very good minions listed, or specters that you could get in there as well, such as, oh man, I'm going to forget all their names, so never mind, let me not list all of them out, but I guess there's like the Forest Tiger that casts Haste, and there's at least one other one that I'm completely forgetting about right now. But anyway, you understand, there are good options out there, and we actually don't even need something like a Hydra too, because we'll have Hatred, Wrath, and Anger as well, all from our Unwavering Crusade right there, which is great. And then, yeah, so early on, league-wise, just take some, you know, get some shield, get some damage where you can. We're taking Death Attunement there. And like I said, because of Flesh Crafter, I have come over here to Grave Intentions. But realistically, I think until you get a Flesh Crafter, if you wanted to go that route, I would say 100% just skip these nodes for the time being. It's not that big of a deal. Don't even bother going over there, and just fill out in more defensive ways if you need to. And then, and we're using the Scourge as well. Again, until you're able to get that, just find yourself a regular weapon. Try to get enough accuracy to make sure you're at least hitting semi-consistently. And then also, you could actually, until you're able to get your hands on a Scourge, you could probably just take Spiritual Aid up here and also get enough dex to be able to wield the Scourge. That's also kind of the other annoying thing, is getting enough dexterity to wield it. So up to you. You can take Spiritual Aid there. It's a good solid weapon, especially again for League start. They're usually relatively cheap as far as I remember, so more power to you there. You can also take Precision here if you feel like your accuracy is a little all over the place, but that is sort of all the recommendation I have as far as this character goes. And then the only other thing is, so of course in here we have all of our gems, all that kind of good stuff. We have Dominating Blow, Multi-Strike, Mini Damage, Fizz to Lightning, Melee Fizz, and LE damage with attacks. With attack hits here, you could, what I really recommend doing with this setup while you're mapping is swap this out for Melee Splash. Swap it out for Melee Splash, it makes a world of difference. You'll really notice it. And then when you're going in for any kind of like big boss target or anything like that, then switch in your Multi-Strike to kind of have it. It's annoying to have to do that over and over again, but that is what I recommend. Also have a Vol Dominating Blow if you can. Get a Vol Dominating Blow with at least 20 quality as well, because quality, actually quality isn't that big of a deal now that I think about it. So you could get it, if you got a 21 Vol, that would be much better. I forgot that Dominating Blow isn't, the quality isn't more guys. So just go ahead and get yourself a Vol level 21 if you possibly can. That would be Probably the most ideal for the build overall. And then we have Ellie Weakness, Desecrate, Spirit Offering, of course, per usual. Some Spectre, Meat Shield, Animate Guardian, and Minion Life. Convocation, gotta keep the boys close. A Carrion Golem with Tempest Shield and Clarity. We got Precision, Haste, and Purity here whenever you're able to run all of these. And Shield Charge with Faster Attacks and Frostblink. And that should be basically everything. You could maybe get if you still have an open slot or two, you could 100% put in something like a Molten Shell plus more duration, or throw in automation with it instead. Probably just anything to actually add a little bit more tankiness to yourself. So I could see running a Molten Shell or a Vol Molten Shell in your gear slot setups as well. But otherwise, the other thing, oh yeah, this little wheel right here, Glory of Command, also very, very nice. Area effect and some global accuracy. Very nice little extra node here. Gear-wise though, very standard stuff. Try to get plus minion levels. As you'll see, I only have +1 on this hat listed because I feel like you can usually get a +1 level fairly early. Getting a +2 though tends to be much more of an ask. So just try to get yourself some +1 level here. So some of these are going to be very like either like unattainable or like kind of almost like a little bit I'm asking a bit much of you, but just try to find a shield or something with 1 to minion skills, some minion damage, whatever other defensives you happen to need, and that's more or less going to be the thing that we're doing all the way down. Fire exposure and intimidate on hit, which is just good. It's going to give you more damage against your targets. Spirit offering effect, cooldown recovery, also all good things. A Jade amulet because we need a good bit of dex for some things. Bone rings with attack and cast speed and minion damage. A Stygian. Eventually you would turn this into a Darkness Enthroned. I don't know how difficult it's going to be to get Stygians this league. I know that they just reworked Abyss and they've done some changes and some other things, so it might be harder to get a Stygian this league, but I'm actually not very sure. So either way, try to get a Darkness Enthroned. That's always good. And then good old Gassy Eyes with just as much added elemental damage, attack speed, and minions deal increased damage if you used a minion skill recently. Also very good to have, of course. So those are all things to look for. Otherwise, whenever you don't have Fleshcrafter, just use yourself a generic good chess piece that will keep you alive and make you a bit thicker. And then also in here, I have a recommendation for just like if you're going for pure thickness versus if you're going for damage. So whatever you want to go for, you could just use either. I mean, it's basically just use an armor shield or use a spirit shield is kind of what it comes down to as far as that goes. So nothing crazy. And with that, I think we're kind of good with Guardian. But yeah, like I said, eventually remove some of these points most likely and go ahead and get yourself a cluster jewel or 2. There are quite a few points you can remove that are not nearly as impactful as getting yourself a like 35% minion cluster jewel. And with that, we'll move on to our assassin here. Assassin's got a very interesting change this league, which actually I was a big fan of, honestly, which is it's this node here. As you see, I haven't taken this node, but it gives you 30% less spell crit chance, which I have listed here in the custom modifiers at the very least. But bifurcates is a mechanic from Path of Exile 2 that does not yet exist in Path of Exile 1, so hence the configuration won't capture that as well. But it basically rolls your critical strikes twice, and if either one of those crits, if either one of those rolls is in fact confirmed to be, yep, that's a crit, then it will crit. And if both of the rolls that it hits are crits, then it will give you even more damage to that crit. So it is very good. It is a very good extra node to have, honestly, and I think it will, I want to say it's going to juice Assassin to a pretty good degree, so I'm pretty excited to give it a go. I will, again, if I'm probably going to league start the Reliquarian, but Assassin might be my next up on the list, because that does sound very fun to run around with. But the skill I decided to set up with is Penance Brand. Penance Brand is a very safe, very solid skill. I like brand skills personally too, so I would this is just kind of what I was thinking as far as this setup goes. Assassin is fun. And then we'd league start here, we'd use Knife in the Back probably to start, just that more critical strike chance against enemies when you first see them. So those first hits against them are almost certainly going to be crits. And then when they are on low life, You're getting more crit multi, and then you're also getting Culling Strike as well. So Knife in the Back to me is just a very good node off rip. And then from there I would take Unstable Infusion into I forget what the name of the bifurcating thing is, but I would take that for second and third, and then go into Shadowed Blood. Or if you really wanted to, you could take Mistwalker as well. Mistwalker is also going to be a really good additional direction that you could go, but I just tend to like not being affected by damaging ailments, and the fizz damage taken recouped his life is actually a pretty cozy node, I have to say. This is overall a very cozy wheel, cozy setup. So yeah, with that, we're just kind of going fairly usual. We're not going CI or anything like that. So we're taking crit, we're grabbing elemental damage, we're grabbing extra power charges where we can, because again, we're assassin, so we're getting power charges very easily and very frequently. We go and take in Throat Seeker here. Actually, I should take Nimbleness here. That's my bad. I didn't have that, so there we go. And then we'll be going over here and get some Annihilation, Instability. I have the Lightning Mastery here for more crit chance here, because if you look in configuration here with our 30% less spell crit chance, we are at 86% chance to crit while they are on low life, so while they're below 50%. But if you uncheck that, we are actually at 100% crit chance. So feel free to just kind of change either of those options around. But yeah, that should be a good little setup here. And then we're coming up. So Lightning Mastery, like I said, because of the enemy, when the enemies are on low life, we want to make sure that we're having a higher crit chance, so that on average our spell bifurcating is happening far more often. And I have Heart of Thunder taken here with the idea that eventually you would remove this wheel probably entirely. Do we have another lightning thing taken? I don't think I do. So eventually we would take that away, and instead we would plop it into a cluster jewel, something like this that I have in here and I was testing with. So Overshock, Disorienting Display, and Prismatic Heart, and you try to get some crit elsewhere, maybe just off some jewels or something. But that's kind of the idea that I have right now. We're taking some Arcane Sanctuary, and otherwise you're just taking the usual brand stuff to, just be able to shove some more brands out, get some more energy shield where you can as well. In fact, probably even do either the regen 2% here or increased energy shield from equipped helmet, but probably even just that, just for the sake of having some actual more regen off of that. And then just coming around, we get more crit multi off of our shield, and we'll be running a titanium spirit shield, more crit, all that good stuff. Taking Rune Binder here so we can apply 2 of them and just let them really pop off. Brand Mastery and some Runesmith action over here. Explosive runes here, I kind of feel a little bit awkward having to come down here for this, so maybe this is what gets anointed later in the league. It might be worth just anointing this and then cutting out the rest of these points and moving them elsewhere to some more to a better area for them. Maybe even Stormweaver. I don't actually know, but I would certainly say you could move these points around. You could play with those points, but I think this is sort of where I landed for the time being. And there might even be some more spell nodes that I'm forgetting about, since it's been a bit since I was really making a true spell build and everything. But that's what we got there. Penance brand here. Fizz to Lightning, of course, Arcane Surge, Lightning Pen, and then increased critical strikes and increased critical damage. Very usual stuff. Pretty safe setup overall, nothing out of the ordinary there. Discipline, Skitterbots, Wrath, Frostblink I just have in here, just for the sake of having all of that. Conductivity with a Lightning Golem, because, Lightning Golem, actually Golems have a pretty good effect overall. So I would say try to get yourself, you could use a Lightning Golem, you could use Ice Golem, or you could use a Stone Golem if you want to get some more life regen or something, or use a Flame Golem as well if you want that. I believe that's more like just generic damage or area damage or AoE in general, so I don't know, something like that. And then I had some open extra just like gem slots. I can't think of anything else I really want to use here. You might be able to attach like Conductivity to just like increased area of effect as well, or Spell Cascade as well, or something if you really want to, but that was just, for the time being, that's just sort of what I just had. Just throw it in there, because eventually once you get their levels up a good bit, then they have a pretty big area of effect as is. So after that, I just decided to throw some more resources into the Golem, because Golems will die pretty often without any kind of support to them, I feel like. So up to you and what you want to do there. If you want to actually invest into that, you certainly don't have to. And then we have Mortal Call here, cast damage taken with more duration, We have a little bit of strength. I do need some more decks, but a little bit of strength, all that sort of good stuff here. So yeah, I feel like it's fairly simple in here. There's probably something that I am like overall forgetting. Maybe you put in like a Hydrosphere. I hadn't even really thought about Hydrosphere, but maybe you put Hydrosphere in there and you're moving that around as well while the Penance brand is going off. Yeah, I don't really know. That might be a decent setup as well. I hadn't really considered that. So if you think of something else, feel free to use it. Item-wise, fairly standard. Again, I feel like I'm not doing anything overly insane, right? Like we have Profane Wand here, and then we're just spell damage, flat lightning damage to spells, cast speed, spell critical strike, spell critical strike chance, global crit multi, and level of lightning spell skill gem. Those are all things that you're looking for from an offensive perspective. And then defense-wise, spell crit again. I mean, well, that's on the titanium shield here. So we just, try to get as much, energy shield, life, resistances that you need to cap out, any stats that you need to be filling in as well. All that just kind of generically good stuff. Try to get some spell suppress as well if you can, because like I said, I don't have those nodes. You know what, that's what I would do. I would anoint explosive runes here. It's actually pretty cheap too. Amber, Azure, that's pretty cheap. I would anoint this, I think, just for the crit multi on it. Is this crit chance? This is crit chance. You miss out on some crit, but overall, though, it's probably fine. It's only 3%. It's fine. To remove this wheel, anoint explosive runes most likely, and then instead come over here and take instinct, and get yourself the spell suppression there, and then maybe even take the lucky spell suppression node in there as well. And I think that's what I would do. So there you go. That's my definite answer. Get yourself some spell suppress where you can, and then otherwise just life, evasion, energy shield, resistances, and stats. That's all that you're looking for. Rings aren't the most helpful thing. I think they added they changed Moonstone rings to be the cast speed base now, like they are in Path 2. So it might also be worth running a Moonstone ring here, or at the very least starting with a Moonstone ring before pivoting to something else. But just try to get cast speed and whatever other crit. There's the essences as well. The crit essences would also help. Those give you global crit multi, so you could absolutely just use some of that and craft on something until you hit something good as well, and that would even take you further beyond. So any number of those kinds of deals, and then just a Stygian Vise here with fairly normal stuff and a Hypnotic Eye Jewel. I personally put regen life on this because I think that some amount of life regen is very comfortable. And it feels not great if you don't have either leech or regen or something, in my opinion. Like, it starts to feel really almost kind of sketchy as you're running around to a degree, because if you take damage and you have nothing happening, it feels not great. You could even oh no, that's right. That's a regen mastery. That's not a life mastery. So up to you and what you want to do there, but I personally find life regen to be very comfortable, or some variety of leech somewhere on your tree as well. But that is what I'm feeling with Assassin. I'm hopeful that this will be good. I'm hopeful. I mean, even if it's not Penance brand, I do really hope that the bifurcate Assassin thing is fun and cool, because I really like that mechanic overall in Path of Exile 2. I think it's very cool, and I like that we're getting it in like a very specific ascendancy way. So I think that'll be fun. And then the last one that I have, which is a meme, I'm going to full on say it, but the last one that I prepared is Fireball Deadeye, because what did they even buff with Fireball? I forgot. Fireball. The base radius is bigger from what it used to be. Crit chance got lowered, which is great. That is sarcasm, by the way. Base mana cost reduced by 20%. That's always nice, actually. And then 480% instead of added damage, and deals more flat damage. Yes. So, okay. That is overall, it's still a buff. You can still reasonably build. We're going crit, and flat added damage is just that much better with it. The unfortunate problem that I always have with Fireball, I actually really like Fireball as a skill and as an ability. The problem I always have with it is you have to invest so many resources to actually make it clear well. Like, it needs to have a pierce, or you need to have multiple projectiles, actually both. You kind of need to either have like pierce and projectiles, or chain, or something. So I decided Deadeye realistically is a very good avenue for that, because Deadeye is just, we're getting our chain once here, and then we're also getting 2 additional projectiles here. I decided to take the Frenzy Charge node. Realistically, if you get Frenzy Charges generated elsewhere, I just am mentally pooped, so I can't think where else I'd really get Frenzy Charges. If you did, though, then you could take Focal Point instead, and then Gathering Winds here, just for the sake of having Tailwind and then increasing the effect of it, which is all good stuff. And then from here, we're just going up. You got Charisma here, taking Revenge of the Hunted. You'd probably even come down here and take this stuff kind of generically early, realistically. Not Fervor, because you don't have, like, not Fervor, not this Jewel slot. But you can come down here and take, you know, the Life and the Inveterate if you want, and take Heartseeker. Or just come over here to Heartseeker first, along with the Charisma wheel, and then start making your way up. Up and over, probably to Snowforged first, because Elemental Mastery for inverting resistances is very nice. And then Nimbleness here as well, which would also be a very good, like, early game wheel to have for this kind of thing. So Nimbleness plus Snowforged here with the LE Mastery is very nice. You have Throatseeker here for the crit, and then just, you know, otherwise I feel like it's a fairly simple shrimple setup as far as the tree goes. You could cut some nodes if you wanted to take Heart of Flame up here if you want, because that is another good, just like, added fire damage and some fire pen, which is nice. I hear the I don't know if my mic's picking up. I can just hear my neighbor's husky really wants to go inside, so I hear it. I hear him going nuts out there. Sorry. And then we have this. I did also consider taking Disciple of the Forbidden and trying to generate power charges in a set way. And you certainly can. Maybe even you would take Disciple of the Forbidden, and then instead of like one of these links, like maybe you drop either Inspiration or Fire Penetration here. And instead you just take, instead you just put Power Charge on crit here, and then you take Disciple of the Forbidden, and again maybe just like cut some nodes here. Maybe even just cut out Doomcast here. As good as Doomcast is, maybe you just cut that wheel out anyway, because you have to go up an extra point for it, and then take the Disciple of the Forbidden and go Power Charge on crit, and just get power charges that way. That's probably a good way to go about doing it. That is almost certainly, actually, you know what? We're going to do that right now. Let's see what happens. So what is our crit at? 71, 60, 66, and then let's swap you for our charge on critical. And we go, we use power charges. 78%, a little bit. I mean, it might be like slightly worse, but yeah, we're just gonna commit with that. We're still using Inspiration just because Inspiration good, but also I know that they added some wheels to the tree for mana efficiency cost of spells. So one of those wheels might be worth taking as well. I forget where they said that they put them, but taking one or two of those wheels as well would also not be bad. If that wound up being enough to fix your mana outright, then I'd probably just drop Inspiration and put back on Fire Penetration or something along those lines, or just increased critical damage would also be fine there. So that's sort of what that's what I'm thinking as far as Deadeye goes. And gear wise, it's kind of the same as like the Assassin here. So Profane Wand, and then we're just going spell damage, fire damage, cast speed, level of fire skill gems, critical strike multi, critical strike chance. Same thing on rings, same thing on, you know, it's basically what the Assassin was doing, but slightly different. Also, since we're over here and we take Inveterate over here, and we also have Instinct here, just try to go with the evasion plus energy shield bases, and then get some spell suppression there, and ideally try to cap your spell suppress, because I think it will be very doable to cap your spell suppress out, and you'll feel a lot thicker for it, even if they did change it a while ago. As much as Pain Attunement is also a good setup if you wanted to like put, I don't know, Herald of Ash or something on your bar and life tap it or something, or Arrogance support it, and then take Pain Attunement as well. I mean, you could, but I think you'll feel very, very squishy for doing that. I want to say, I feel like you'd feel too squishy for doing that, so I feel like I can't wholeheartedly recommend going that route. I suppose you could though. So to each their own as far as the Pain Attunement routes goes. I'm just basically gonna go, not for me, caught, not doing it. And yeah, that's all I have as far as Deadeye and Fireball goes, all that kind of good stuff. I think it's just potentially a very fun skill, potentially a lot of good times. Oh, right, Sniper Mark, Frostblank, Zealotry Grace, Summon Skitterbots, and a Clarity down here as well. Oh, I forgot to put in... Right, I forgot to put in a... Oh, what would it be? A Mortal Call, I guess? Yeah, we have enough strength. You know what, I'll slot in an Immortal Call here. Not that we're going to use a max level 1. Actually, do we actually have enough for a max level 1? That's pretty funny. And then we could just do automation then. If we have enough strength for it, honestly, I would just say run a max level Immortal Call for the heck of it, automation, more duration, or at the very least, if that starts to cost too much mana, like I actually wonder. Yeah, it's enough. That actually costs way too much mana. I forgot about the mana cost efficiency thing. 70. Yeah, that's a bit extreme. So let's just go like level 10 with it, and then call it good there. Eligible items missing an anoint. Oh, that doesn't matter. Not that big of a deal. And that, I think, is what we would set up with here. And then, like I said, if you wanted to, especially in the early game, if you really wanted to swap something out with like greater multiple projectile, or it's just called multiple projectiles now, I believe. So just swap something out for that, and you'd reasonably be fine. But that is, I believe, my full setup, my full list of things that I am debating on, or that I was debating on, full list of things that I threw together for 329. And like I said, I am more than certainly going to be starting the Fire Cyclone Reliquarian. I'm very, very excited to be getting our hands on some more Path of Exile 1 content. I'm very stoked. I always love coming back, especially after how good Mirage was as a league. This league looks like it's going to be a little bit more complicated, such a little bit more in-depth, because we're going underwater. But I think it will be a fun one, and I'm really looking forward to getting our hands on it. And all I can say is I hope that it feels good, and that we get to have we get a good amount of loot, and we get a good amount of just like fun stuff, and that it doesn't feel like annoying the amount of times you have to like go there and do it, right? I feel like that can happen sometimes where they make a mechanic and it's really cool, but you have to go to the side area every time that you want to do it, and it can be kind of annoying to like take the time and set it up and then go in and do it. So that like grand expeditions, as far as that goes, right? You have to go to the map and you have to set up everything, and you have to think about what you want to take and what you don't want to take, and if something actually is going to affect your build too much, and then you go back and detonate it and then run it again. So I'm hoping it's not something like that. I'm hoping it's just more fun. You know, you dive down, you set up your map, you dive down, you get your loot, you send it back, and you have a good time doing it. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm going to be assuming it is until I'm proven otherwise. But YouTube, I hope you enjoy. I hope your league start goes well, and you are blessed with many a good loot. Until I see you next time, stay sane out there, exiles.